Chosen one. Listen, heaven has paused everything around you right now because this message is not coincidence, it is a divine interruption. November 15th is not merely a date written by human hands, it is a spiritual checkpoint written in eternity. You have felt it in your spirit, the restlessness, the heaviness, the subtle awareness that something is shifting. That is not anxiety, that is awakening. Heaven's alarm is sounding in your soul, and only those who are chosen will recognize its tone. For too long, you have tried to move at the world's pace. You followed routines that dulled your fire, conversations that silenced your conviction, and distractions that disguised themselves as peace. But heaven has been pulling you away from the noise. Every cancelled plan, every sudden silence, every separation, none of it was random. It was divine strategy. God was preparing your ears to hear what others cannot. The hour has come for separation, for consecration, for clarity. November 15th will not just arrive, it will reveal. It was proclaimed in the book of Romans, chapter 13, verse 11. The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. This is the cry of heaven right now. Wake up. You are being summoned to a higher frequency of obedience. Heaven is counting on your awareness. You are not behind schedule. You are right on divine time. Everything that felt delayed was, in truth, calibration. You had to walk through rejection so you could recognize true direction. You have wondered why the atmosphere around you feels different lately, why old habits no longer fit, why familiar voices no longer satisfy. It is because you are being elevated. The oil on your life cannot stay in a vessel built for the past. Heaven is rearranging the landscape around you so your purpose can find room to grow. Do not resist the discomfort. It is proof that transformation has begun. This is the moment when heaven whispers, "Enough waiting." You've prayed, you've cried, you've questioned, and heaven has listened. The silence was not God's absence, it was His attention. He was watching your endurance, weighing your faith. And now the scales have tipped in your favor. November 15th is a divine summons for the faithful, the patient, the unseen. It is not about superstition, it is about alignment. Chosen one. You are standing at the threshold of a prophetic transition. The signs have been building, the dreams that feel too real, the sudden awareness of numbers, the repeated encounters that feel orchestrated. These are not coincidences, they are coordinates. Heaven is marking your path with divine breadcrumbs, leading you toward the moment, written for you before time began. There is urgency, but not fear. The world confuses urgency with panic, but heaven defines urgency as obedience. You are not called to rush, you are called to respond. Before November 15th, heaven is asking you to lay aside distractions, to listen deeper, to fast from confusion. Your clarity will be your protection. When the trumpet of heaven sounds, those who are attuned will not tremble, they will rise. Many will ignore this warning. They will scroll past divine instruction as if it were noise. But you, chosen one, I know the difference. Your spirit stirs even now because truth recognizes truth. Heaven is whispering, do not delay. For some, November 15th will be revelation. For others, regret. But for those who obey, it will be the unlocking of long-awaited promises. You are not called to fear what is coming, you are called to prepare for it. The earth itself is shifting. Prophetic alignments are unfolding across nations. The systems of man are trembling, and the kingdom of heaven is advancing. That is why you feel the spiritual pressure increasing. You were not created to escape the battle. You were created to lead through it. Chosen one. If your spirit bears witness to these words, respond now. Heaven moves when you move. Like this message as a prophetic act of agreement. Share it so others may awaken before it is too late. And subscribe to stay connected to what heaven is revealing through these words. Then, as a declaration of readiness, comment the number 777 below. It is the seal of divine completion, the symbol that heaven's work in you is reaching fullness. This moment is holy. You are not reading this by chance. You are standing under divine interruption. Every moment from this point forward will either confirm your calling or expose your complacency. Choose wisely. The alarm has sounded. Heaven is watching. The time is now. You begin to notice the stirring deep within. A movement that words can hardly describe. It is subtle, yet undeniable. Something ancient is awakening in your spirit, as though heaven itself has whispered your name through the wind. Every sleepless night, every sudden thought that pulls you into reflection, it all leads back to this inner shift. You cannot ignore it anymore. The ground beneath your soul is trembling because destiny is approaching. You used to mistake this feeling for anxiety. But it is not fear, it is recognition. Your spirit is recognizing the rhythm of heaven. You are being tuned to a divine frequency that others cannot hear. While the world grows louder with distractions, your soul grows quieter, more focused, drawn toward a moment. You cannot explain but somehow understand. This is what happens when the unseen world begins to align with your purpose. For years, you have prayed for a sign, for confirmation that your waiting was not wasted. And now, the sign is not external, it is internal. Heaven no longer needs to shout when your heart finally listens. The stirring in your chest is the evidence of heaven's movement within you. The oil of purpose begins to rise again. The dreams that you thought had died begin to pulse with new life. What you lost in the wilderness is finding its way back to you, refined and pure. There is something sacred about this in-between moment. You are no longer who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. It is uncomfortable. Yes, but necessary. Transformation is never silent. It groans. It presses. It stirs. It is the sound of new creation taking form. The Spirit of God hovers over the deep places of your being, preparing to speak light into what still feels like chaos. You might wonder why the stirring feels heavier at night. It is because night has always been heaven's workshop. When the world sleeps, heaven shapes destiny. When the noise fades, your spirit becomes reachable. That is why certain thoughts come to you in the quiet hours, revelations that pierce like light through fog. Do not dismiss them. They are messages from above, wrapped in stillness. The stirring is not random. It is heaven's invitation. God is preparing to expose what has been hidden inside you all along. The strength you doubted, the faith you thought had faded, the authority you forgot you carried, it is all returning. You are being recalibrated for purpose. Your tears have watered the soil, and now the roots of your calling are breaking through. This is why your atmosphere feels strange, why your spirit is restless. You are being pulled toward alignment with heaven's calendar. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 20, Verse 27. The spirit of man is the lamp of the Lord, searching all the inner depths of his heart. This is what you are experiencing, the searching light of God moving through your inner chambers, revealing what still needs surrender and what has been waiting for activation. It is not punishment. It is purification. God is removing the dust of delay so your purpose can burn clearly again. You will notice that the things which once tempted you no longer have the same power. The words that used to wound you no longer pierce as deeply. That is growth. That is evidence that heaven has been working behind the scenes. The shaking within you is the undoing of what once held you bound. The Spirit is rewriting your response to pain, teaching you to see storms as teachers instead of enemies. And as this stirring continues, you will start to understand that obedience is not an obligation, it is a privilege. When heaven stirs you, it means heaven trusts you. God only disturbs what he intends to use. You are being summoned into clarity, into readiness. Soon, the whisper will become a voice, the nudge will become instruction, and your spirit will move before your mind has time to argue. That is divine maturity. Do not rush this process. The stirring is not meant to frighten you, but to anchor you. What is forming within you will outlast what is shaking around you. The same Spirit that started this work will complete it. And when November 15th arrives, you will not be startled, you will be steady. Because while others were distracted, you were being refined. The shift within will become the strength without. You feel heaven's rhythm steady in your chest now, no longer trembling, but a live faith breathing where fear once lived. Purpose awakening where confusion once ruled. The stirring becomes stillness. The stillness becomes knowing you are aligned, anchored, and ready for what the appointed day will unveil within you. Everything around you begins to shift. Your usual rhythm no longer fits. The familiar starts to feel foreign. Heaven is interrupting your routine, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Every delay, every pause, every quiet moment lately has been deliberate. God has been speaking not through thunder, but through timing. The very things you thought were setbacks were actually signals. You were never stuck. You were being synchronized. You may not have realized it, but heaven has been rearranging your schedule to match divine alignment. Meetings that fell through, plans that failed, paths that suddenly closed. All of it was heaven's gentle hand guiding you out of distraction. Sometimes God protects you by denying your plans. The disappointments that frustrated you were actually merciful detours. If you had moved when you wanted to, you would have missed what was being built in silence. The Spirit of God does not shout. It orchestrates. It rearranges the ordinary to expose the extraordinary. You might wake up one morning and realize that everything around you feels off, that nothing fits like it used to. That is not instability. That is recalibration. Heaven is editing your environment to make room for what's coming. Scripture reminds us in the book of Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 8, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord." And this is why you must release your expectations. What looks like interruption is often initiation. What feels like silence is often strategy. God interrupts your comfort to awaken your calling. You've noticed it, the repeated dreams, the feeling that you're being watched over, the strange coincidences that feel too intentional to ignore. This is heaven's language. The divine often hides in the details. Every delay you've encountered is a divine conversation written in time. Heaven has been speaking through closed doors because open ones would have distracted you. You were not ready before, but you are now. Some of the people who left your life weren't enemies. They were completed assignments. Some of the prayers God didn't answer were protection disguised as no. Every time you said, "Why now?" Heaven whispered, "Because later would be too late." This is the season where you will look back and see that what broke you actually built you. You were not meant to live in constant motion. You were meant to move in rhythm with heaven. And lately, heaven has been slowing you down. The silence has been divine surgery, cutting away impatience and fear. You have been in the waiting room of heaven, and the door is about to open. When it does, you will understand why you had to pause. This is the hour where discernment becomes your greatest weapon. Not every opportunity is from God. Some are distractions dressed as blessings. Learn to listen deeper. Every interruption is an invitation to trust. Every closed door carries the same whisper, "I am still in control." Ah, chosen one. Pay attention to this pattern. The moment you stop forcing, things start flowing. When you release what is no longer meant for you, grace accelerates what truly belongs to you. November 15th is not just a date, it is a mirror reflecting your obedience. What you do now will echo then. If your spirit recognizes this truth, respond not with fear, but with faith. This is your moment to acknowledge heaven's interruption as holy. Don't just scroll away, respond in agreement. Comment below, "I'm listening," meant in, because those two words are more than a phrase, they are a posture. When you say, "I'm listening," heaven leans closer. It means you're done running, done resisting, done trying to understand everything before obeying. It means you're ready to hear what others ignore. The listening heart always receives what the restless mind misses. Soon, the routine that once drained you will no longer control you. Your pace will shift. Your focus will sharpen, and the silence will begin to speak. God has not forgotten you. He has been preparing you for a moment that will make sense of every unanswered prayer. And when that moment arrives, you won't question the interruptions anymore. You'll thank Him for every detour, every closed door, every divine delay that made you ready for what is coming next. The shift within you is the sound of alignment. Everything that once confused you now begins to connect, revealing how every delay was an unseen piece of divine orchestration shaping your destiny. The whisper, "I'm listening," becomes your covenant with heaven, a declaration that your spirit is awake, your faith is active, and you are ready to hear and obey without hesitation. There are patterns written into the fabric of time, divine codes that reveal themselves to those who watch closely. Heaven does not hide truth, it conceals it for the seeking heart. Prophetic patterns are not coincidences, they are language. The same God who wrote creation with rhythm also orchestrates destiny through numbers, cycles, and seasons. When you learn to discern them, you begin to see that time itself is a message. November 15th is not simply a date, it is part of a pattern repeating through generations. Heaven works through appointed times, moments when earthly calendars align with divine order. It is the convergence of grace and assignment, the meeting point of what has been promised and what must now unfold. For those attuned to the Spirit, these patterns do not cause fear, they bring clarity. The noise of confusion fades when the rhythm of heaven becomes clear throughout Scripture. The number 15 carries a recurring message of divine transition, the moment between struggle and strength, night and dawn. On the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan, Israel walked out of bondage into freedom. It was not random, it was written. Every 15th in biblical rhythm marks a change in spiritual climate, a turning of the page in heaven's calendar. When you sense that shift, it is an invitation to prepare, to purify, and to perceive what God is about to reveal. We see in the book of Genesis how God marks seasons, setting lights in the sky for signs and appointed times. Nothing under heaven moves without divine rhythm. You have been walking through days of preparation. But November 15th signals an unveiling. Heaven is aligning you with a timeline older than creation itself, a rhythm your spirit already knows, but your mind is only beginning to grasp. According to what is revealed in the book of Daniel, chapter 2, verse 21, he changes times and seasons, he deposes kings and raises up others. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to the discerning. Oh, this verse reminds you that divine timing is never passive. When heaven changes seasons, it does not ask permission, it announces authority. What feels like uncertainty in your life is heaven's way of rearranging power, shifting you from waiting to walking, from confusion to command. Look carefully at the patterns unfolding around you, the sudden bursts of awareness, the increasing sensitivity to spiritual signals. These are not mere moods. They are echoes of divine timing. When heaven highlights a date, it is not superstition, it is instruction. Prophetic dates are moments where obedience becomes acceleration. They are checkpoints where faith is weighed, and the faithful are advanced. You may have noticed that this year feels different. That time itself seems to be accelerating. It is because heaven's timeline is pressing closer. What took years before will take months now. The Spirit is compressing time for those who walk in alignment. Delay is being replaced by divine momentum. That is why discernment matters so deeply in this season. Only those who read the pattern correctly will move in peace. Do not approach this with fear or obsession. God is not calling you to count numbers, but to discern meaning. Numbers in Scripture are like prophetic fingerprints. They reveal identity and intention. The 15th points to completion birthed from endurance, to victory that follows purification. You are standing in that pattern now. Everything you have endured was shaping you for release. The storms you faced were not random. They were synchronized with heaven's rhythm. Every tear watered the field of your promise. Every moment of silence was a countdown toward unveiling. What you could not see before will become visible soon. Revelation does not always come as lightning. It often arrives as light. And that light is beginning to break through the cracks of your waiting. As November 15th approaches, your awareness deepens. The signs become undeniable, not loud, but consistent. Divine confirmation always arrives in patterns, a repeated phrase, a verse that appears unexpectedly, a sense of peace when you think of a specific moment. These are heaven's codes, and you are learning to read them. The key is stillness. Patterns reveal themselves not to the frantic, but to the focused. Those who rush miss rhythm, but those who wait with discernment find alignment. Heaven is not testing your patience, it is training your perception. When you recognize the rhythm, you will no longer chase signs, they will follow you. Everything about this prophetic date points to transition. Heaven is not just changing your surroundings, it is changing your sight. You are learning to see not with panic, but with prophecy. When that day comes, You will not fear what shifts, you will flow with it. Because what is written cannot be erased, and what is spoken by heaven cannot be delayed. Time slows in a way you can almost feel. The days around you are no longer ordinary, they breathe with a strange stillness, as if heaven itself is waiting to see what you will do next. This is the moment when the divine pauses the noise of the world, so the whisper of purpose can finally be heard. November 15th is near, and heaven leans close. When heaven pauses the earth, it is never without reason. You begin to notice that everything around you feels suspended, your conversations, your energy, even your emotions. It's as if life has turned down the volume so you can hear the rhythm of destiny more clearly. God is saying, "Be still and know that I am God." Stillness is not inactivity, it is attention. The world rushes to be seen, but heaven waits to be heard. In this sacred quiet, heaven watches how you respond, not how loudly you worship, not how perfectly you speak, but how willing you are to listen. Sometimes, your greatest act of faith is simply staying still when everything in you wants to move. That is obedience. That is trust. The Word of God reminds us in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven." Oh, right now, you are in that divine time. Every delay, every closed door, every tear has brought you here to this season where purpose and patience finally meet. Chosen one, what heaven is about to release through you requires peace. Not panits. Many people pray for miracles, but rush through moments of stillness, the very moments where miracles are formed. Do not let impatience rob you of revelation. God is speaking in the silence. You may not hear thunder, but you will feel guidance. You may not see lightning, but you will see confirmation. It is in this space between waiting and fulfillment that your faith becomes fragrance. Heaven breathes it in, and doors begin to unlock. When you remain faithful during stillness, you are telling God, "I trust you even when I cannot trace you." That trust is what moves heaven more than anything else. As you continue this journey, I want you to know something very clearly. This space, these words, this flow of revelation, it all exists to serve your spirit, to remind you that you are not walking alone. Behind every message is a mission to awaken, to restore, to keep light burning in a world that grows dim. If these words have stirred something in you, let your small act of love keep this flame alive. Think of it not as payment, but as pouring oil into a lamp so it never goes out. If you feel led, you may give, support, or sow a seed to help the light reach further. Every gift, no matter how small, becomes part of the river that keeps flowing toward others, still lost in the dark. This is never demanded, it is invitation. You are free to walk past the well, or you can drop in a cup of water so another thirsty soul may drink. That is what giving truly is, participation in God's heartbeat. When generosity flows, the river widens, and if you cannot give right now, your prayer is oil too. Every whisper, every amen, every moment you choose to stay connected is part of the fire that will not go out. Before you leave, pause for a moment if this message resonated. Gently tap like. It's not just a button, it's a spark that tells the algorithm of heaven, this light must go further. End of 4. Share this message like a candle, touching another wick. Each share is a torch passed to a soul, still walking through fog. Subscribe, so the stream of revelation continues to reach you. Stay near the flame. More is coming. And if your heart feels the quiet nudge to give, donate, not out of pressure, but out of joy. Think of it as adding another branch to the fire that warms those who have grown cold. What burns here only survives because hearts like yours choose to keep the light alive. The stillness of this moment is sacred. Heaven has paused the earth not to demand, but to invite, to remind you that even the smallest act of faith can move mountains unseen. The flame you help sustain today will one day light your own path back. When darkness tries to return, every spark you give becomes guidance waiting for your tomorrow. Because generosity is never lost in heaven, it circles back like rain to the soil it first touched, watering your dreams, your healing, your next divine breakthrough in perfect time. There are warnings that do not arrive with thunder. They come as gentle whispers in the stillness of the night. You may have felt it lately, the quiet unease, the weight pressing softly on your chest, the sense that something is drawing near. That is not fear, it is discernment awakening. Heaven never speaks in panic. When the Spirit warns, it is not to frighten, but to prepare. This is the hidden mercy of God, warning before consequence, invitation before closure. As November 15th approaches, the realm of heaven grows more alert. The spiritual atmosphere feels charged, as though angels hold their breath. There is a sacred tension, a pull between grace extended and grace withdrawn. For those who listen, the warning is clear. This is not the time to drift. You cannot live half asleep when eternity leans close. Some will ignore the signal. They will silence conviction with comfort, assuming that mercy will always wait. But mercy has rhythm. It flows and it pauses. There are seasons when heaven's voice softens, not because it has stopped speaking, but because it is waiting for you to respond. The warning of heaven is not anger, it is love refusing to let you wander blind. You have felt the spiritual static increase, old temptations resurfacing, unexpected fatigue, strange resistance around simple things. These are not coincidences. They are attempts to pull your focus from what truly matters. Darkness knows that if it cannot destroy you, it will distract you. But you must not look away now. Your awareness is your weapon. The enemy fears a focused soul. According to what is revealed in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30, verse 19, I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live. Every day, heaven sets before you a choice, to drift with the noise or to stand with the light. The warning is not meant to shame you, it is meant to save you. You are being asked to examine your heart before the 15th arrives. Are there things you've delayed surrendering, patterns you've excused? Knowing they pull you away from peace, the Spirit exposes them now, not to condemn, but to cleanse, before new oil can pour. Old residue must be removed. The hidden warning of this hour is subtle but serious. Do not postpone obedience. The small compromises that seem harmless today are the cracks where greater deceptions will enter tomorrow. Heaven is calling you to close every open door, every habit, every doubt, every voice that whispers, later. The Spirit is saying, now, not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, now. The longer you hesitate, the dimmer your discernment becomes. You do not lose faith all at once. You lose it through neglect. But if you are reading these words, mercy is still active. Conviction is proof that heaven has not gone silent in your life. Listen carefully. November 15th is not the end of grace, but the marking of separation. God is identifying the listeners from the wanderers, the awakened from the asleep. Those who heed this warning will feel peace deepen, not fear. If your spirit feels the weight of this truth, do not run from it. Let heaven see your response. In this moment, comment the prophetic number 999 below. This number represents finality before renewal. It is heaven's way of saying, what must end will end. So what is destined can begin. When you write 999, you declare transition. I am closing old doors, ready for divine beginnings. N. Heaven does not overlook symbolic acts of faith. Each one becomes a signature in the spiritual realm, marking where your surrender meets God's timing. When you declare 999, you align with completion and rebirth, ending cycles of confusion and inviting clarity to reign. You still have time. You still have grace. Take this message as both mercy and mission. Mercy that you still hear, and mission to act before silence returns. November 15th is coming, and heaven wants you ready, not fearful. When you choose to respond, heaven records it. Every step of obedience, seen or unseen, becomes part of the testimony you will one day tell. What you decide now shapes what heaven releases next. The number 999 is more than a symbol, it is a doorway. It means the closing of one assignment and the quiet birth of another. It's the breath between endings and beginnings, where grace rewrites your story in light. Let this moment mark you. When November 15th arrives, you will not tremble, you will stand, because you did not ignore the whisper. You followed it, and heaven never forgets those who listen and obey. The atmosphere around you grows heavier, not with dread, but with purpose. Something unseen is taking shape. Heaven is assembling its armies, and angels are moving in silent precision. They are not fluttering figures from stories, they are fierce, disciplined forces of light. Every one of them knows their command, their timing, their assignment. November 15th is not simply a day, it is a divine deployment. You may not see it with your eyes, but the spiritual realm around you is alive with motion. Heaven does not prepare without reason. When God assigns angels, it is because a shift on earth demands reinforcement. The unseen world is far more ordered than the chaos of men. It follows heaven's command like music, every note timed, every pause purposeful. Lately, you may have felt strange waves of energy, sudden fatigue followed by bursts of clarity, moments of heaviness followed by peace that feels unexplainable. These are not random. When angels draw near, the atmosphere bends, time itself seems to stretch. Emotions fluctuate, and your discernment heightens. You are not imagining this. You are standing close to divine movement. Heaven never leaves its chosen unguarded. The battles you sense but cannot see have already been anticipated. There are angels assigned to your name. Standing, watch where your strength ends. You have survived what would have broken others, not because of chance, but because heaven intervened when you didn't even know you were in danger. According to what is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. And this is not poetry, it is policy. It is the law of heaven concerning you. When your assignment matters, your protection becomes sacred. There are angels of warfare who stand guard over nations, and there are angels of purpose who stand guard over people. The same way a king sends soldiers to protect a crown, heaven sends angels to protect a calling. You have been protected more than you realize. The near accidents, the sudden delays, the closed doors that disappointed you, all of them were shields. Heaven's armies are not always seen in glory. Sometimes they appear in inconvenience. This is why you cannot afford to complain about detours. The steps of the righteous are ordered, but so are their pauses. Every pause is heaven catching its breath before a greater push. Your stillness is not stagnation, it is synchronization. The angels move when you are aligned, not when you are anxious. Heaven's armies are not moved by panic, they are moved by authority. That authority is released through faith, through obedience, through your willingness to remain in position even when you do not understand. Some of your greatest victories will come not from striving, but from standing. There is a story being written in heaven right now with your name on it. Every act of obedience becomes a command to the angelic realm. When you forgive someone who wounded you, heaven dispatches healing angels. When you pray for someone who cursed you, angels of breakthrough are released. When you resist temptation, the sound of your no echoes like a trumpet that calls reinforcements to your side. You are never alone in this battle. This is why it feels heavier before it gets easier. The spiritual realm tightens before release. The tension you feel is not failure, it is friction. The evidence that something is moving. Angels stand at the edge of your atmosphere, waiting for heaven's signal. November 15th is that signal. It is the divine timestamp for orders long written. But know this, angelic movement does not remove human responsibility. Heaven partners with you, it does not replace you. The same way a general fights with soldiers, God fights through your faith. Your words matter. Your posture matters. Your purity matters. The angels assigned to you move faster when your faith aligns with your obedience. If you could see the realm around you for one moment, you would never doubt again. You would see light standing taller than shadows, strength greater than every scheme of darkness. You would see your prayers forming walls, your worship becoming weapons, and your endurance shaping the battlefield. Heaven's armies are not distant, they are present, patient, and prepared. So, when you wake up feeling the pressure of invisible warfare, remember, it is not to crush you, it is to crown you. Pressure is proof that you are being trusted with something powerful. The stronger the calling, the greater the resistance, but also the thicker the shield. You are not outnumbered, you are surrounded. The silence you sense is not absence, it is readiness. Heaven does not panic, heaven prepares. And right now, heaven is prepared for you. You begin to understand now that nothing you've endured was wasted. Every night of confusion, every unanswered prayer, every closed door, none of it was random. The wilderness you walked through was not a punishment, it was training. You were never abandoned, you were being refined. Heaven hides its strongest soldiers in seasons that feel like silence, because purpose is always sharpened in solitude. There were moments you felt forgotten, as if your prayers dissolved into air, but heaven heard every one of them. Silence does not mean absence, it often means construction. While you wept, God was building something you couldn't yet see. The foundations of your next season were being laid beneath the soil of your surrender. When it felt like nothing was happening, everything was. The wilderness was heaven's classroom. It stripped you of illusion, of dependency on applause, of the need to be understood. You learned how to hear God without the noise of approval. That's what the wilderness does. It removes every false voice until only truth remains. You learned endurance, not because you wanted it, but because you had no other choice. And now, that endurance has become armor. According to what is written in the first letter of Peter, chapter 1, verse 7, these trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold. Fire never destroys what is real, it only removes what is weak. The pain you carried was refining you, shaping your spirit into something that cannot be easily broken. You are no longer the same person who entered that season. You have been purified by process. The wilderness also taught you dependence. When no one understood, you learned to lean on heaven. When provision ran dry, you learned that God Himself is the provider. When doors closed, you discovered that not every door deserves to open. You learned that rejection can be redirection, that loss can be holy, and that solitude can be sanctuary. Every cry that came from your brokenness reached heaven's record. Not one tear fell unnoticed. In eternity, nothing is wasted. Not your suffering, not your silence, not your waiting. The wilderness was never meant to end you. It was meant to empty you of everything that couldn't go with you into the promise. You see, in the wilderness, God takes away what you think you need so He can give you what you truly need. He teaches you to hear His voice without confirmation, to believe without seeing, to walk without understanding. When you survive that kind of season, your faith becomes dangerous to darkness, because the one who has walked through fire without losing hope can walk through anything. Sometimes heaven hides you to protect you. You were hidden, not forgotten. Heaven was storing you away like seed beneath the soil. Seeds are never buried, they are planted. And when the time is right, what was hidden must rise. November 15th is not the beginning of your growth, it is the revealing of it. The roots you built in secret are about to sustain visible fruit. You have changed in ways you cannot yet measure. The same storms that once terrified you now teach you. You have learned how to pray without panic, how to trust without proof, how to stand when everything else shakes. You have grown in silence, and heaven has watched every step. It is no small thing to survive the wilderness. Most give up halfway, but you remained. That endurance has become your seal, your mark of maturity. Heaven does not send untested vessels into battle. The very pain you begged God to remove was the process He used to prepare you. Now, your wilderness has turned into wisdom. What once felt like loss has become insight. You can now recognize in others the same confusion you once carried. And your words carry healing because they come from understanding. That is how God multiplies the pain you surrendered, by turning it into compassion that reaches others. There is a sacred beauty in what you've endured. The silence became your teacher. The pain became your anointing. And the delay became your discipline. You have graduated from surviving to carrying revelation. What once made you question everything has now made you unshakable. The wilderness is over, but its lessons remain. You walk differently now, not in fear, but in awareness, You know what it costs to carry light, and you refuse to waste it. The same God who walked you through the fire will walk you into your promise. What was hidden will be revealed, not by chance, but by divine timing. And when that unveiling comes, you will recognize it not as reward, but as restoration. Heaven never wastes a wilderness. Every moment of pain was prophecy preparing you for purpose. There comes a moment when God confronts not your weakness, but your comfort. You have reached that moment now. The season of gentle stirring shifts into a season of holy confrontation. Heaven will no longer allow you to live small when you have been chosen for something great. You prayed for purpose, and now purpose is standing before you, demanding a response. Everything in your life that was once tolerated but not transformed is now being brought into the light. You cannot hide behind indecision anymore. The Spirit of God is no longer whispering. He is calling. Every idol of delay, every habit of distraction, every small compromise that dims your fire, He is requiring it now. Heaven's love is not soft, it is surgical. God removes not to wound, but to restore. This confrontation is not about punishment, it is about purification. When heaven highlights something in your life, it is not to shame you, it is to free you. You are being called to release what you have clung to out of fear. The things you've been unwilling to surrender are the very things that have been holding you still. The weight you carry is not from God. It is from what He has asked you to let go. Scripture says in the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 1, "Let us throw off everything that hinders, and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us." You cannot run toward destiny while holding hands with delay. This is the moment to choose momentum over comfort. You've asked for open doors, yet God is asking you to release closed ones. You've prayed for new beginnings, but heaven cannot write a new chapter if you keep rereading the old one. Confrontation is never comfortable, but it is always necessary. To be chosen means to be challenged. The greater the calling, the deeper the pruning. God is removing distractions that masquerade as peace. He is dismantling illusions that you built to feel safe. But here is the truth. Safety is not always sanctified. Sometimes the safest place for your soul is the storm that forces you to depend on faith again. You have come too far to fall asleep at the threshold. The same God who brought you through the wilderness is now preparing you for elevation, and elevation requires examination. What you refuse to confront will eventually control you. God is giving you this window, this sacred pause, so you can face what must be faced before November 15th arrives. There are habits that cannot cross into the next season. There are connections that cannot go where you are going. The Spirit is not taking things away to hurt you. He is making room for something holy. Every surrender feels like loss until heaven replaces it with what was meant to be there all along. The confrontation of God is an act of mercy. He could let you drift, but instead, He disrupts you. He sends conviction where compromise used to live. He shakes the foundations, not to break them, but to rebuild them stronger. This is not rejection, it is redirection. You are being realigned with heaven's plan, not your own preferences. This is your moment to stand in truth. You don't need to justify the pruning. You don't need to explain the endings. Just obey. The pain of surrender lasts only for a moment, but the peace that follows will stay for a lifetime. And now, if your heart knows this message is speaking to you, If you feel that holy discomfort stirring within, respond with humility. Comment below. I surrender. I lucy. Those two words are not weakness, they are warfare. When you say, I surrender, you are not giving up. You are giving in to divine direction. It is the moment heaven recognizes that your will has bowed to purpose. The enemy loses his grip when you finally stop fighting what God is doing. This is how breakthroughs begin, not in noise, but in surrender. Heaven moves swiftly when obedience is immediate. What you release in faith today will return multiplied in grace tomorrow. You do not lose by letting go, you rise. So, face this holy confrontation with courage. God's correction is confirmation that you are still loved, still chosen, and still destined for more. When you surrender what no longer belongs, you make space for everything that was always meant to be yours. When you whisper, I surrender, heaven doesn't hear defeat, it hears alignment. It is the sound of chains falling, of walls breaking, of destiny finally breathing through your obedience. And from that surrender, peace flows like a river. What once felt like loss transforms into freedom. Proof that letting go was never the end, it was the beginning. There are moments in life when heaven unfolds a scroll, and you realize the story was never about loss, it was about learning. November 15th draws near, and the air feels sacred, like time itself is bowing in reverence to what God is preparing to reveal. The seals of heaven are loosening, the hidden things are coming to light. The whispers you once struggled to understand now begin to form sentences in your spirit. The silence breaks, not with noise, but with knowing. The scroll is not a piece of paper, it is revelation. It holds every season you endured, every trial that shaped you, every tear that became a seed. The ink of your story is written in grace, and heaven is turning the page. You are about to step into the part of your journey where endurance turns into evidence. What you believed in silence will soon be seen in fullness. As the ancient prophet declared in the book of Revelation, chapter 5, verse 5, do not weep. See, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has triumphed. He is able to open the scroll and its 7 seals. This is your assurance. Heaven has not forgotten what was promised. Every closed chapter will open at its appointed time. Every unanswered prayer will reveal its purpose. Think of your life like a tapestry, woven from threads of joy and sorrow, of failure and faith. From up close, it looks chaotic colors clashing, knots and imperfections. But when heaven steps back, the pattern becomes clear. Every struggle, every pause, every loss formed part of the design. The unsealed scroll of your life reveals beauty where you once saw only brokenness. You may feel that what you have is small gifts, small reach, small faith, but heaven has always used small things to accomplish great ones. A single spark lights 1,000 candles. A single drop of rain becomes the beginning of a flood. Your small obedience is enough to change the atmosphere around you. This space, these words, are built not from fame, but from faith. Every message released here is like a lantern set afloat on dark waters, reaching the ones still searching for light. And if you have found warmth, comfort, or clarity through these messages, then you have already become part of this mission. If this light has touched your heart, consider keeping it alive, not because you must, but because you choose to. Every like, is a flame rekindled. Every share, a torch passed to another soul wandering in the dark. When you click that button, you are not just reacting, you are reaching. And if this message has reminded you of your purpose, subscribe not as a routine, but as remembrance. Each time you return, you tell heaven, I am still here. I am still listening. Loss. Now, about giving. If you feel led to support this space, to help the words continue flowing and the light shining, you may give freely, joyfully, quietly. Think of it as tending a fire in winter. When you place a log on the flame, the warmth spreads further, reaching someone you may never meet. This is not obligation, it is participation. Giving is not about money, it's about meaning. It's recognizing that what nourished you could nourish others too. Whether you give prayer, a kind word, or a seed of support, each act keeps this sanctuary alive. For some, generosity is the oil that keeps the lamp burning. For others, it is the gentle wind that keeps the ember glowing. However you choose to give, do it with peace. No one is watching but heaven, and heaven remembers sincere hearts. If you have nothing to offer but your attention, then you've already given something priceless. The light you help sustain today will one day guide another weary traveler home. Light never ends where it is given. It travels, multiplies, and returns in unexpected ways. The warmth you've shared will one day circle back, carrying the same comfort you once needed most. Every act of kindness is recorded in heaven's rhythm. What feels small to you becomes significant in eternity, shaping stories you may never witness but helped create. When you give time, love, or light, you become part of a greater current flowing through humanity. Each gesture ripples outward, reminding others that goodness still lives, still moves, still restores. So walk forward gently, knowing that what you've shared will not fade. It will shine through others, living proof that light is the only gift that never ends. The call to alignment is not a shout, it is a steady whisper, the kind that follows you even when the noise of life fades. You begin to sense it in the smallest details, in the way certain thoughts won't leave your mind, in how familiar patterns suddenly feel heavy, in how peace only comes when you obey the quiet nudge within. Alignment is not about perfection, it is about position. Heaven is inviting you to stand where grace flows freely. When your heart, mind, and actions begin to move in rhythm with God's purpose, life no longer feels like resistance. The pieces that once refused to fit start to fall into place. It isn't that circumstances suddenly become easier, it's that you stop fighting against divine timing. Alignment does not erase struggle, it gives it meaning. God often realigns you through discomfort. The irritation you feel when things no longer satisfy you is a sign that heaven is shifting your coordinates. What once felt right now feels restless because growth has outgrown its environment. You are being invited into a higher order of obedience. You can sense it in the way peace now depends on surrender. The more you resist, the heavier it feels. The more you release, the lighter you become. According to what is written in the book of Amos, chapter 3, verse 3, "Do two walk together unless they have agreed to do so?" This is the essence of alignment. To walk with God means to agree with His rhythm. Agreement requires trust, and trust often means walking without full understanding. You cannot ask for divine partnership and then question every step. To walk with God is to move even when clarity is still forming. Many mistake alignment for motion, but true alignment begins with stillness. It is not always about moving faster. Sometimes it's about standing exactly where heaven has placed you until instruction arrives. The world glorifies busyness, but heaven honors accuracy. When you are aligned, even a small step carries great power. There are signs that tell you when alignment is near. You will notice divine coincidences, the right people crossing your path, words confirming what you quietly prayed, doors opening without effort. These are not luck, they are the rhythm of heaven, syncing with your obedience. You will also notice resistance from old environments. Alignment always attracts opposition because light exposes what was hidden. But do not mistake friction for failure. It means you are moving closer to truth. Heaven's alignment requires detachment from what drains your focus. You cannot carry clutter into clarity. That is why certain relationships fade as others begin. God removes noise before He releases new notes. Every friendship, opportunity, or habit that fades is part of heaven's retuning of your life. The melody of your purpose cannot play correctly when too many dissonant sounds surround it. You may feel the tension between where you are and where you're being called. It is not confusion, it is calibration. Heaven is stretching your capacity to hold new wisdom. This is the sacred tension between the not yet and the soon. It is the space where faith matures. In that space, God teaches you to depend on revelation instead of routine. Your alignment also carries influence. When one life falls into harmony with heaven, others begin to find their rhythm too. You are a tuning fork for those around you. Your obedience sends out vibrations that realign environments, workplaces, and even families. That is why your surrender matters. Heaven's order often starts with one willing soul. It is not always a dramatic transformation. Sometimes alignment is as quiet as saying no to something that looks good but feels wrong. Sometimes it's waking up earlier to pray, speaking kindly when you could stay silent, or forgiving before an apology arrives. Small acts of obedience create great ripples of order in the unseen world. This season is your realignment. Heaven is not punishing you, it is perfecting your placement. What used to drain you is being replaced by what defines you. You are stepping out of scattered motion into divine rhythm. There is a new peace waiting for you on the other side of surrender, a peace that does not depend on outcome but on alignment. When November 15th comes, you will know who you are and where you stand. The winds that once pushed you off balance will only confirm your foundation. You will no longer chase meaning, you will become it. Because when your life aligns with heaven's will, even silence sounds like purpose. There is a mystery that unfolds in the midnight hours of heaven. It is the hour when silence turns sacred, when the invisible begins to shift into the visible as the world sleeps. Heaven writes, "This is the midnight transfer, the moment when divine exchange takes place, when burdens are lifted and mantles are reassigned. You may not hear it with your ears, but your spirit feels it. Something holy is moving in the dark. Every great transition happens in hidden places. Before light appears, there is always a transfer in the shadows. The midnight hour is not a time of despair, it is a time of delivery. Heaven is moving resources, authority, and favor into the hands of those who have remained faithful in obscurity, those who have worshipped when no one was watching, are about to be seen, not for fame, but for function. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." No, this is not only a call to wake up, it is an announcement. The night has done its work. What was buried in silence is now ready to emerge. In heaven's calendar, midnight is not the end of one day, it is the beginning of another. When the clock strikes 12, endings and beginnings coexist. It is the thin line where yesterday's trials meet tomorrow's triumphs. That is where you are standing now. Every delay you endured, every unanswered prayer, every private battle, it was all preparation for the transfer taking place in this hour. You may feel restless lately, as though your spirit is pacing. That restlessness is not frustration, it is readiness. The weight you feel is the weight of destiny being placed upon your shoulders. Heaven does not give mantles to the impatient. Only those who have endured the silent years can be trusted with the voice of influence. The midnight transfer is not about fame or recognition. It is about responsibility. When heaven gives you something new, it is never for yourself alone. It is for the people you are called to lift. You have carried pain. Now you will carry power. You have walked through loss. Now you will walk with light. The season that once humbled you will become the reason others find healing through you. Some of what you are losing right now is not punishment, it is exchange. Heaven cannot place a new mantle on shoulders still clinging to the old. Let go of what no longer serves your purpose. Do not fight the release, honor it. God never takes without replacing. The midnight transfer is proof of divine balance. Heaven never removes without restoring something greater. You may notice new ideas rising suddenly, vision coming clearly, unexpected clarity flooding your prayers. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations that the exchange has begun. The instructions that once felt distant will now feel direct. You will begin to move with precision, not hesitation. The fog is lifting. Every soul who has waited faithfully is being repositioned. Heaven is not rewarding perfection, it is rewarding perseverance. Those who stayed when walking away felt easier are now being strengthened. The same night that silenced you will announce you. You will not need to fight for visibility. Obedience will bring it naturally. This transfer is also generational. You are carrying more than your own destiny. You are carrying redemption for bloodlines that broke under burdens. You survived. Heaven has watched your endurance and has decided that the cycle ends with you. The patterns of fear, failure, and confusion will not continue past this point. You are the turning point in your lineage, the one chosen to shift the story. If your spirit feels this, if you sense that something within you is about to rise, then let heaven record your agreement. Right now, comment the prophetic number 111 below. This number is the mark of divine beginning and unity. It represents the alignment of your will with God's will, the oneness between heaven's plan and your purpose. When you write 111, you are declaring, I am ready for what is starting. I agree with the new that heaven is unfolding. It is not superstition, it is symbolism. Heaven speaks in patterns, and numbers are language. When you type those digits, you are echoing what heaven has already decreed. A new order has begun. You do not need to see the entire staircase. You only need to step. Every act of faith releases motion. Every declaration invites confirmation. As you move in agreement, heaven completes what your obedience begins. The midnight transfer is not happening to you, it is happening through you. The light is shifting hands, and you are one of the vessels chosen to carry it. Stay alert, stay humble, stay open, because when morning breaks, the world will not look the same, and neither will you. There is a quiet sorrow that comes to those who hesitate in divine moments. It is not the loud grief of tragedy, it is the subtle ache of missed obedience. Heaven never hides the cost of delay. It simply waits to see who will move when called. The tragedy of hesitation is not that grace disappears, but that opportunity does. Grace remains, but timing shifts. And when timing shifts, what was once open can close. Those who miss divine moments rarely recognize it at first. Life continues, but something feels off. The same prayers are spoken, yet the air feels different, thinner, quieter, more distant. Heaven's invitation was answered with silence. And now silence answers back. It is not punishment, but consequence. The window of obedience is sacred because it carries weight, not just for you, but for others, connected to your assignment. There are souls who were meant to cross paths with you through your obedience. When you delay, they wait. When you resist, they wander. Heaven's plans are intertwined. Your yes is often the bridge someone else needs to find their purpose. That is why obedience matters so deeply. It is not simply about you, it is about the divine chain of destiny that flows through you. According to what is written in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 12, verse 47, "The servant who knows his master's will and does not get ready or does not do what his master wants, will be beaten with many blows." This verse is not about violence, it is about responsibility. Knowledge increases, accountability. To hear heaven's voice is a privilege, but to ignore it is peril. Those who miss their moment often try to recreate it through effort, but divine timing cannot be manufactured. Once un moment passe, it shifts into memory. God can redeem lost time, but redemption comes through repentance, not repetition. You cannot force what was meant to flow. The only way forward is surrender. The story of Saul reminds us that disobedience can cost more than position, it can cost presence. Saul still wore the crown long after heaven had lifted its favor. That is the most dangerous kind of loss, when you still look anointed on the outside, but heaven has already moved on. God is patient, but not passive. When we continually resist his promptings, he raises up others who will respond. Heaven's purpose will not fail. It will simply find a willing heart elsewhere. Yet even in missed moments, merci lingas. Heaven does not close doors out of spite. It closes them to protect you from entering seasons unprepared. The pain of missed opportunity becomes the soil where wisdom grows. If you learn from it, even delay can become discipline. God redeems through revelation. He turns regret into instruction. The quiet ones who miss their timing often walk softer afterward. They speak slower, listen longer, and pray differently. The memory of hesitation teaches humility. It reminds them that obedience is not a burden, but a privilege, a rare chance to align with the heartbeat of heaven. You can feel heaven's compassion even in its correction. God does not scold to shame you. He corrects to call you back. The conviction that follows missed obedience is not condemnation. It is the whisper that says, there is still time to listen again. The path may change, but the destination remains. Grace bends what would otherwise break. Some of you are standing between regret and renewal. You know the feeling, the awareness that you should have acted sooner, prayed deeper, believed faster. But even now, heaven is not finished with you. The same voice that once said, "Move," is now saying, "Return." You are not disqualified. You are redirected. Those who miss a moment with God are not erased from His plan. They are reshaped by it. Sometimes the delay becomes the very lesson that prepares you for the next opportunity. The pain you feel now will become sensitivity later. You will recognize divine moments quicker because you know how it feels to lose one. This is not where your story ends. The ones who learn from missed moments often rise stronger than those who never stumbled, because wisdom born from regret carries a depth that simple success never could. You are not too late. Heaven's timing may have shifted, but its purpose remains fixed. The next door will open, and this time, you will move when it does. Every delay that once haunted you will become direction. What you thought was lost will return in new form, proof that mercy still writes stories even after hesitation. The heavens and the earth have always worked in partnership. What happens above eventually manifests below. When prophetic words are spoken, creation begins to respond. The winds shift. The waters move. Even the stars adjust their glow. Heaven never speaks without echoing through nature. That is why, as November 15th approaches, signs begin to appear, not in chaos, but in quiet precision. The visible world mirrors the invisible. You have perhaps noticed the small changes already, an unusual calm before certain days, unexpected restlessness in others, strange dreams that carry an unfamiliar weight. These are not random, they are reflections. The earth feels what heaven reveals. Prophetic dates are not superstition, they are synchronization. When God marks a time, all of creation leans in to bear witness. According to what is written in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 19, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." And the signs around you are not warnings of disaster, they are confirmations of destiny. Creation is watching, waiting for the ones who carry divine light to step fully into who they are. When heaven moves, the natural realm applauds. Sometimes these signs come through the sky, an unusual sunset that paints the horizon in colors that stir your soul. Clouds forming patterns that feel alive, or a sudden brightness that lingers longer than it should. At other times, they come through the earth, sudden peace after storms, unexpected blooming after drought. The way air feels lighter after a long night of prayer. These are heaven's fingerprints, left gently on the world for those who have eyes to see. The universe itself is not divine, but it reflects divinity. The rhythm of the planets, the precision of seasons, the pulse of tides, all of them follow a law older than time. The same voice that spoke, "Let there be light," still commands every atom to obey. Nothing drifts without direction. When heaven marks a moment, even the elements pay attention. You may also notice spiritual signs that reach beyond sight. A verse repeating in your heart, a phrase that won't leave your thoughts, a number that keeps appearing in unexpected places. Heaven often uses repetition to draw attention. These patterns are not to be feared, but discerned. They are heaven's gentle reminders that you are part of a larger orchestration, one that involves both realms, the seen and the unseen. The night skies themselves carry stories of divine timing. Long before telescopes, prophets looked upward for confirmation of seasons. They read the heavens not as fortune tellers, but as witnesses. The stars declare order, not chaos. When you look upward now, you are gazing into the same canopy that Abraham once saw when God promised him descendants as numerous as those lights. The same sky still speaks. It reminds the faithful that what God begins, He always completes. Signs also appear through people. Someone says a phrase that answers a silent question in your heart. A conversation you overhear aligns perfectly with something you prayed. Divine timing often hides inside ordinary encounters. Heaven does not always send angels in bright light. Sometimes it sends them in human form, wrapped in kindness or correction. The more you align your spirit, the more you will recognize these signals. They do not demand attention, they invite reflection. God's signs never create fear, they create focus. The purpose of every sign is to guide, not to startle, to confirm, not to confuse. When you notice them, do not rush to interpret, simply acknowledge them and thank heaven for awareness. Gratitude opens understanding. The greatest sign of all is not in the sky or the earth. It is within you, the stirring in your spirit, the clarity in your convictions, the peace that appears after prayer. These are the internal signs of external alignment. The same spirit that moves galaxies also moves within your chest. That is why discernment is holy. It is heaven speaking softly through your heartbeat. As the days draw closer, do not look for dramatic wonders. Look instead for subtle affirmations. Heaven rarely shouts, it whispers. It speaks through patterns, through presence, through peace. The signs in the sky and the earth are not there to predict, they are there to prepare. You are not meant to fear what is coming, but to recognize it as confirmation that God's timing is unfolding exactly as intended. The alignment of heaven and earth does not announce an ending, it declares readiness. What has been promised is about to be revealed. The signs are only reminders that heaven's hand still holds everything in balance. And when you see them, let your spirit answer softly, I see, I understand, I am ready. There is a moment in heaven's rhythm when the hidden ones rise, the quiet hearts, the steadfast souls, the ones who did not give up in the waiting. November 15th carries that energy. It is not just a date, it is a coronation. The crowns that were crafted in the silence are now being placed upon those who endured. The world may not notice the ceremony, but heaven does. You will feel it not on your head, but in your heart, a sudden knowing that the season of hiding has ended. Heaven is not crowning perfection, it is crowning perseverance. The ones who kept believing when hope flickered, the ones who loved even when unseen, the ones who forgave in secret, all are being recognized. The crown you receive is not of gold or jewels, it is made of understanding, resilience, and purity. It is invisible to the eye, but unmistakable to the spirit, according to what is revealed in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 12. Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because, having stood the test, that person will receive the crown of life that the Lord has promised to those who love Him. This crown is not the end of your journey, it is the sign that a new one has begun. As you rise, you may notice that light follows you differently, not brighter, but deeper. Your presence no longer demands attention, yet it draws it naturally. People will not understand what changed. They will only feel that peace moves with you. This is what divine crowning looks like, humility shining quietly through strength. Heaven has publicly endorsed what was privately refined. Every crown is connected to calling. You are not being lifted above others. You are being lifted to serve them better. True royalty is responsibility. To wear a crown in heaven's kingdom is to carry compassion for those still wandering. The higher you rise, the lower you bow. The more you receive, the more you give. And here, in this sacred moment, this message, this flow, this space, it exists because hearts like yours have chosen to keep it alive. It was never built by noise, but by love. Every like that you leave is a spark, a small flame saying, I see this light, and I want it to keep burning. When you press that symbol, think of it not as approval, but as participation, your spark joining 1,000 others to keep the fire warm for those still walking through the cold. Every share is more than a click. It is a candle passed hand to hand. Somewhere, someone you may never meet will find hope because your simple act of sharing carried light to them. You become a messenger, not with a pulpit, but with compassion. The story of heaven spreads not by command, but by kindness. When you comment, even a few words, it is as if you're adding your voice to the choir of awakening. Each voice strengthens the resonance, turning what was once a whisper into a chorus. You are not responding to a video, you are responding to heaven's echo within you. And when you subscribe, do it as one who chooses to remain near the well. Each message you hear, here is water drawn from deep places. By subscribing, you are saying, I will return to drink again. It is not obligation, it is communion. There is one more thing, and I speak it softly. If you ever feel led to give, let it be like planting a seed in a field you believe in. Not every seed is seen immediately, but each one carries a future within it. Giving is not a transaction, it is transformation. When you sow into what has blessed you, you are extending the branch that once sheltered you. The fruit will grow in places your eyes may never see, but heaven will. Whether you give a word, a prayer, or a gift, do it in joy. Do it because the fire you help sustain today might one day guide another home. Do it because it feels beautiful, not because it feels required. Donations are not debts, they are echoes of gratitude. This movement was never about numbers, it was about light. The same way stars multiply when night deepens. Hope multiplies when hearts align. Your like, your share, your whisper of support, each one becomes a constellation. Together, we turn darkness into direction. And when you finish reading, if peace has touched you, take a breath and respond in your own way. Maybe you light a candle, whisper a prayer, or simply close your eyes and say, thank you. Every response is sacred, because in this moment, you are not just a listener, you are a builder of light, a keeper of fire, a crown bearer among the chosen. Heaven sees it all and smiles. The days after a divine turning point always feel different. The air holds a quiet weight, as if everything around you remembers what just happened. You begin to notice the world through new eyes, the same places, the same faces. Yet nothing feels ordinary anymore. It's not that life has suddenly become perfect, it's that you have changed. The light within you now reads reality differently. What once felt random now feels orchestrated. What once wounded you now teaches you. This is what walking in the afterglow feels like: calm clarity after divine collision. Heaven's moments leave residue. You can sense it when you wake. A softness in your spirit. A sensitivity that wasn't there before. The noise of the world seems quieter. The distractions less convincing. You have become aware of what matters and what does not. The battle within you between faith and fear has grown still. Because revelation has replaced reaction. You are not the same person who first heard the call. You are refined, steadied, and awake. The afterglow of heaven is not about emotion. It is about awareness. You begin to see evidence of God's fingerprints in details you used to overlook. The conversation that arrives at the right time. The delay that saves you from disaster. The quiet conviction that redirects your path all become reminders that divine orchestration continues beyond the climax. The shift was never meant to end in spectacle. It was meant to teach you sight. As written in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 5, verse 17. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come, the old has gone, the new is here. The afterglow proves that transformation is not always loud. Sometimes, it is as simple as breathing differently, thinking clearly, or forgiving faster. You are walking proof that change can be gentle, yet permanent. You have learned that faith is not a feeling, it is a lens. Through it, even pain looks purposeful. The shadows no longer frighten you. They reveal contrast to the light. Your gratitude deepens, not because life is easier, but because you see more clearly. The small moments, the sunrise, the quiet prayer, the laughter of a friend now feel sacred. This is what it means to walk in divine rhythm, to find holiness in what the world calls ordinary. You begin to move with new sensitivity. The same spirit that awakened you continues to guide you, not through noise, but through knowing. You will notice that your discernment has sharpened. You no longer need to ask for signs. Peace itself becomes your confirmation. What disrupts your peace no longer belongs to your path. The presence of unease is heaven's whisper saying, "Not here." The presence of calm is its reply, "This way." The afterglow also brings responsibility. Revelation carries weight. Once your eyes have seen truth, you cannot unsee it. The same clarity that comforts you also calls you higher. You are now entrusted with perspective, your words, your choices. Your presence will influence others without you trying. You don't have to preach, you simply have to be. People will feel peace around you because you have become a carrier of it. But do not misunderstand this peace as passivity. The stillness within you is not retreat, it is readiness. The same way, soldiers rest between battles. Heaven gives you calm to strengthen your resolve. Another season will come. Another calling will arise. And you will answer with greater confidence, because you now understand that every storm eventually becomes sunrise. This new awareness may feel strange at first. The world will still rush, people will still panic, yet you will stand steady, moving at heaven's pace. You have learned that divine timing cannot be hurried, and obedience cannot be faked. The restlessness that once ruled your spirit has dissolved into trust. You are now living proof that transformation is not about escaping the storm, it's about becoming the calm within it. You no longer chase miracles, you recognize that you have become one. Every breath, every act of faith, every quiet yes to heaven is evidence that grace works even in the smallest things. And as the days unfold beyond November 15th, the afterglow becomes your rhythm. You will walk lighter, speak softer, love deeper, and listen better. Not because life has changed, but because light has. The divine has settled in you. And wherever you go, it goes too. The flame you carry no longer flickers, it glows. You walk forward now, not chasing signs, but becoming one living proof that heaven's touch leaves light behind, turning ordinary moments into eternal reminders of divine nearness. The air after revelation feels different, lighter, yet charged. The earth beneath your feet seems softer, as if creation itself recognizes that something within you has changed. November 15th has passed, yet its echo continues, pulsing quietly through your days. You are no longer standing where you were. A door has closed behind you, and though you may not see the next fully open, you sense it. The old season has folded into history, and a new rhythm is beginning to write itself through you. The world moves as it always does, busy, distracted, relentless, but you move differently now. Your steps have purpose, even when your destination is unclear. You carry stillness within you, and that stillness has become strength. Heaven has not only touched you, it has transformed your way of seeing, of choosing, of being. You no longer seek confirmation in noise, you find it in peace. Everything you have walked through, the pain, the pruning, the patience was leading to this posture. Heaven has aligned you not for applause, but for assignment. This is the era beyond the date, the season where your obedience begins to bear visible fruit. The lessons of your wilderness have become wisdom. The silence that once scared you has turned into sanctuary, and though there may be more battles ahead, your spirit no longer trembles, it trusts. As written in the book of Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus." End of book. This promise is the rhythm of your new beginning. Heaven never starts what it cannot finish. Every revelation you received before November 15th was not an ending, but a seed of what continues. Now, you begin to see the world differently. The people you meet are no longer random encounters, they are appointments. The words you speak are no longer casual, they are assignments. You are aware that your life is a message, written not in ink, but in integrity. The way you respond to challenges becomes a sermon. The way you love becomes prophecy. Heaven's era is written through how you live. The divine rhythm unfolding now will not always be spectacular. Sometimes it will come disguised as simplicity, waking up with gratitude, working quietly without recognition, choosing kindness when anger would feel easier. The miracles of this era are subtle but strong. They appear not as fire from the sky, but as warmth that never fades. You are being called to live as a keeper of that warmth, a walking flame that does not boast, but burns faithfully. There is power in the ordinary days that follow holy moments. The true test of transformation is consistency, how you walk when the spotlight fades, how you speak when the crowd disperses. The ones who carry heaven beyond the altar are those who keep their faith steady in the mundane. You are being asked to build quietly, to nurture what was awakened, to plant where you stand. The era beyond the date is not about waiting for what's next. It's about walking faithfully in what is now. Heaven's timeline is not measured in hours, but in obedience. Every time you choose faith over fear, You move forward in divine history. Every act of compassion, every word of truth, every hidden prayer becomes part of heaven's unfolding plan through your life. This new season will bring fresh understanding. Old confusion will no longer haunt you, because you will begin to see why it all happened as it did. What once felt delayed will now appear deliberate. What once felt like detour will reveal itself as design. God wastes nothing, not your tears, not your silence, not your waiting. You will also notice something deeper. The peace that arrived after obedience does not leave. It stays, shaping your reactions, anchoring your thoughts. It is no longer an emotion, it is a residence. Heaven has made home inside you. The storms that once shook your faith now only test its strength. You will fall less often into fear because you have learned that even falling is not failure. It is a reminder of grace. Your story will continue, but you will never again walk unaware of purpose. The divine does not visit to leave, it settles to dwell. And now, as this season stretches forward, your life becomes its testimony. The echo of November 15th will fade in sound, but remain in spirit. You will carry its message into every new dawn, that obedience opens what fear cannot, that timing is sacred, and that heaven always fulfills what it begins. You are walking not into conclusion, but continuation, an era where faith becomes your language, peace becomes your armor, and presence becomes your offering. The date has passed, but the destiny it unlocked has just begun. You have reached the end of this journey, but the message is not ending, it is expanding. What began as a whisper from heaven has now become a flame within you. If these words have found you, touched you, or awakened something deep inside, that is not coincidence, that is confirmation. You were meant to hear this. In this very season, at this exact point in time, before you leave, pause it. Take a breath and let gratitude rise. This moment is sacred. It is where revelation meets reflection. You are not just a listener, you are a carrier of light now, and light was never meant to be hidden. When you like this message, think of it as striking a match in the dark, one spark that says, "This flame matters." And when you share, you are passing the torch. Somewhere, someone you may never meet is still wandering in silence, and your simple act of sharing becomes the lantern that leads them home. Heaven works through small gestures of compassion, and your click, your action, may become the very answer to another person's prayer. When you comment, your voice becomes part of the testimony. Each word you write adds to the echo of heaven's message moving through this space. It tells the unseen world, we are listening, we are awake. And if your heart feels stirred to give, do it not as duty, but as devotion. Think of it as pouring a little oil into a lamp that continues to light the path for others. Every seed you plant, every offering you sow, every prayer you whisper, it all keeps this fire alive. Subscribe if your spirit feels at home here, not out of habit, but out of hunger for growth, for peace, for purpose. You are part of this movement now, a living thread in a tapestry of light woven across hearts and nations. So as you go, carry this flame gently, freely. What you received here, give it forward. What warmed you, share it. What awakened you, live it. Because light only fulfills its purpose when it shines.